So we're well into July, which means the championship season is just over 30 days away, and I cannot wait. So here on the channel, we're going to start looking ahead to the upcoming season, doing videos on some of the clubs, doing predictions, transfer news, etc. So subscribe for all that good stuff if that's what you're looking for. But today, we're not going to be looking at my early predictions. That is to come over the next few days. We're going to be looking at who the bookies think is going to go up and who the bookies think is going to go down. So on the left-hand side, we're going to be having a bookies league table going from top to bottom, and we are going with Paddy Power, who are the bookies that I bet with. I mean, this is not sponsored by Paddy Power, but if they'd like to sponsor me, then hit me up. Email's in the description. But we're going to be looking at their outright odds to see who they think is going to win the championship title and get promoted this season, work our way down and see who are the biggest outsiders, therefore their favourites to get relegated. So we're going to go from bottom to top, starting with the two outsiders who are both 50 to 1. So the biggest outsiders to get promoted and win the title, and I guess the favourites to therefore get relegated, are Oxford United and Plymouth Argyle, and I can completely see why these two would be the biggest outsiders, because Plymouth, of course, fantastic team, one of my sort of favourite teams in the championship who I've got a big soft spot for. They did exceptionally well last season, of course, to stay up, albeit a couple of interesting decisions around their management. Obviously, Steven Schumacher leaving didn't help. It led to them getting a little bit close to the trapdoor, but it was an incredible achievement for them to stay up. However, it's clear that the appointment of Wayne Rooney is going to have people a little bit sceptical, given his record at championship level, and I hope for him he completely eradicates the stigma that's stuck to him as a manager and that he's, well, not very good. I also hope for Plymouth that this isn't true, but they are 50 to 1 odds to be probably relegated and towards the bottom. And no surprise, they're joined by Oxford United, another team who I really like, who I've had FM saves with in the past. Again, another team I have a really soft spot for, but obviously it's a huge step up for Oxford. They've not been in the second tier since the end of the 90s. Their budget will be a lot lower than everyone else, and it would be an astonishing effort for them to stay up. But if Plymouth could do it last season, they could do it this season. But of course, they are the two clubs who I think will have it toughest in what I think will be a very competitive championship, especially in mid-table, going down towards the bottom this season. But they're the two outsiders, 50 to 1. Next up, we have two sides who are 33 to 1, and I'm quite surprised by both of these. We've got Cardiff City and Preston North End. Now, these are two sides that I think have as solid mid-table sides. I'm surprised they're as big of an outsider as they are compared to other teams who finished below them last season. Cardiff, I think, took a decent step forward under Errol Bullett, and although I don't expect them to be in the playoffs this season, I feel like they just need another steady season of progression on and off the pitch. But to see them this low is a bit of a surprise, and you could say the same for Preston. They are a little bit hit and miss. They overperformed, you could say, last season, and I think the relationship between the fans and Ryan Law still isn't great. But again, another solid side I'd have absolutely no worries for, yet them two are towards the bottom in the bottom 4. Next up, we have 4 clubs, all 25 to 1. These are clubs, I guess, within the odds are safe, but in the bottom half of the table, you've got Swansea City, Bristol City, Blackburn, and Millwall. Now, I can't disagree too much with a lot of these. I think Swansea are in and around where I'd expect them to be. I think they're probably going to go through another transition season. Not going to get too embroiled in playoffs and promotion, but I don't think would be in any trouble either. Bristol City are exactly the same. I think they are making slow progress under Liam Manning, but again, Bristol City are just a very steady mid-table side. I think Millwall are also in a similar-ish position. I feel like Neil Harris did a good job last season. I think getting them up the table, they were safe comfortably in the end, and I don't think he's got it in him tactically to get them in the playoffs or quite where Gary Rowett had them, but he's got them playing the Millwall way, and I think that would be enough to get them safely in mid-table. But Blackburn are the ones I'm a little bit surprised by, because, let's be honest, without the goals of Sammy Smodics last season, Blackburn very much could have been the side that had gone down instead of Birmingham City. So I think they've been slightly generously booked by Paddy Power. I definitely have Cardiff and Preston above Blackburn. I'd have them sort of between this group and the bottom two, but they're, I guess, fancied as a steady mid-table team, but there are certainly a couple of surprises that are above them. So we've got a pair of sides next who are just a bit higher at 22-1, and that is QPR and Sheffield Wednesday. Now, there's quite a bit of quiet optimism around Sheffield Wednesday this season, and I can kind of understand why. Danny Röhl did an outstanding job last year, but I feel like if they are to make a big step up the table, they are going to have to invest well in their team, and I think that's still to be seen. So I don't think Danny Röhl, on his own, being a very good coach, by the way, can just take them up the table, comfortably into the table on his own. I still have question marks around who they might bring in, the budget available. Chansiri is a big one, of course. So I'm not quite as sold that Sheffield Wednesday will be as comfortably away from trouble as this. I do have complete faith that Danny Röhl, given a full season, will keep them moving in the right direction, but I'm not too sure they'll be above some of the teams we've already discussed. You could say the same for QPR. It's a bit of a similar story with Cifuentes, really. He come in like Röhl and did a great job steering QPR away from trouble, but again, consistently over a season, do I see them being good enough to be above some of the sides we've already discussed? No. I think, like Chef Wed, they'll take a step towards safety and consolidation this season, but I don't think they'll be any further up the table than that, and I don't think either of them will be troubling the playoff paces. Next up, we have 6 teams all booked at 18-1, and these are the sides that I guess in Paddy Power's order would be mid-table towards the playoffs without really troubling them too much. So you've got Stoke City at 18-1, Portsmouth at 18-1, as are Hull, Sunderland, Derby, and Watford. So 2 newly promoted sides at 18-1. Now, I don't quite get that. I know Ipswich probably skewed the expectations of what a newly promoted side could do last season, but let's not forget, prior to last season and prior to what Ipswich achieved, and I guess Sunderland the year before, newly promoted sides have often struggled to break into the top half of the Championship, and it still is an incredibly competitive league, and I can completely see why Ipswich were well tipped last season. I tipped them to get promoted, but I can't see Portsmouth, Derby, or Oxford doing anything similar. Don't get me wrong, I feel like they're all coming up in good nick, and I feel like they probably, Derby and Portsmouth especially, will probably stay up, but I don't see them getting to this height within the league table. I don't see them getting into mid-table, maybe having an outside chance of playoffs. I think they'll both be just good enough and steady enough to survive without getting too far ahead of themselves. I think the rest of the teams are quite interesting. Stoke, I feel, are always booked to finish a little bit ahead of expectation because every year people still think and believe that this will be the year that Stoke will finally take a step above 16th position. Despite their recruitment and the money they spend, they just never improve, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them finish in exactly the same part of the table once again. So I guess this is where Stoke maybe should be, but I've got no faith that they'll get there. And then you've got a couple of teams who are a little unknown, I would say. Hull are in there. Who knows what will come of Hull? Of course, they lost a lot of quality with the loan players last season, new manager, so it's very difficult to really predict where Hull will be. I think they're in the right place because you can't quite put your money on them challenging for playoffs again, but I also don't see them dropping too far, but you never know. Sunderland, I think, have been decently booked by Paddy Power. I feel like they've got a lot of cleaning up to do at the Stadium of Light. You know, it's took them over 100 days to get a new manager in. It feels like there is a little bit of lack of stability at Sunderland at the moment. Things just don't seem quite right. So although I wouldn't expect them to have as bad of a season as they did last year, I don't think they'll be too high either. This maybe is in and around where they should be. And you could say the same for Watford. They're another team that you just don't quite know what you're going to get with Tom Cleverley. He come in and steadied the ship without being spectacular, I would say. So they might very well challenge towards the playoffs this season, or they might not. I don't know, but this is very much a pool of clubs who I think are just booked to be in the middle because no one quite knows what we're going to get from them. Although again, I think Derby and Portsmouth have been quite generously booked by the bookies. In 8th, we've got Coventry City. They are 14-1 outsiders, and that's quite interesting that they're not as high as a couple of other teams. I'd have had Coventry a little bit higher. I think Mark Robins always gets this Coventry team competing, and a lot of their new signings who started to come good last season with, of course, Haji Wright and Ellis Sims are going to, I think, only improve this season. I think they've got an incredibly strong foundation. They've not had to change their manager. They've not had to sell too many players. Of course, they have lost Callum O'Hare. Who knows what will happen with Ben Sheaf. So there's a danger they still might lose a couple of key assets, but they lost Gus Harmer and Gyökeres and still competed for the playoffs last season and fell short towards the end. So I can see why 8th is a realistic position for Coventry, but I feel like they are in a better position to kick on maybe than they were 12 months ago, and I think I'd have them definitely as slightly stronger playoff contenders. We've got 3 teams who are joint 5th, 6th and 7th at 12-1. You've got Sheffield United, newly relegated of course, Norwich, and their fellow playoff semi-final losing side with West Brom. Now I understand this with Norwich and West Brom. Again, who quite knows what we're going to get with Norwich, with them having a new manager. I think I'd have a little bit more faith in West Brom. Of course, things seem to be settling down there, and that's only going to benefit them with Carlos Corberán at the helm. I'd absolutely have West Brom in the conversation to get playoffs again next season. Sheffield United, though, are the ultimate can of worms. No one has a clue what's going to come of Sheffield United, and I do have a video coming up that I'm working on them specifically, because I've seen some people back them to go down again, some have backed them to bounce straight back up. I just think they're the most unpredictable side going into next season, because as any parachute team would be, they'll have finances available and they'll still have a very good team, but they've lost so many star players from last season. I believe they've not got many players on their books right now, so they're going to need a bit of an overhaul, and there's nothing to suggest they won't get that overhaul right and be competing. But equally, there's every chance that it might go a little bit wrong, and like West Brom and Watford, and when they come down, you know, Norwich, they won't compete instantly to go straight back up, and they might finish mid-table. It might take them a while to acclimatise, so I can see why Sheffield United are up there, but I'd have probably had them a little bit more towards mid-table. In 4th, at 11-1, you've got the Boro. Yes, my club, Boro, are 4th with the bookies, and that's kind of where we normally are. We're always quite well fancied, but like Coventry, I think Boro are in a fantastic position, a stable position with fantastic foundations. Michael Carrick's going into his 2nd full season. He was incredibly unlucky last season with the number of injuries we had and the unavailability from start to finish, and he still almost had us in the playoffs last season with that incredible run where we lost 1 in 12 at the end. He's got a 20-goal-a-season striker right there with Emmanuel Latelath. Got a fantastic defence with Rav Vandenberg, the returning Darragh Lenihan, Matt Clark, Dale Fry, rumours of Ryan Giles returning. We've obviously signed on Luke Ayling, who got 9 assists for Boro between January and the end of the season, which was incredible. We've already made 3 signings this season before the window even opened, so we're extremely well prepared. I feel like we've already got a great squad and we're still going to be adding to it, so this is not me being biased towards Boro. I feel us and Coventry are in the best position, are in the most stable position to just kick on. You know, even the relegated sides are going to have a lot of stuff to sort out, albeit they'll still have the financial power. But a lot of other clubs that we were competing with last season have either got new managers or are having an overhaul of their squad. So I feel like we're in a fantastic position to kick on, and I think 4th is in and around where I'd expect Boro, because of course the newly relegated sides will be definitely slightly more fancied, as we're about to see. So in 3rd, just ahead of Boro, we've got Luton Town, 10-1. They are, out of the 3 sides who've come down, I think the best placed to go straight back up. I thought this last season, when they were stepping into the Premier League, I thought a lot of the players they were signing were good, but were also with the Championship in mind. You know, I thought, well, Luton are preparing for the best, but also the worst. And it goes to show, you know, Luton are an incredibly well-run club, and they're so good at planning for the future. And I saw last summer that they were preparing themselves for, you know, if they were to get relegated, which I'm sure they were realistic and thought could be a possibility, they'd have a very good squad that wouldn't need that much work, that could easily be ready-made to be one of the best in the Championship. And I feel like they've already got a squad that could bounce back up quite easily, to be honest with you. So I think Luton are the best preferred relegated side without a doubt, and if they keep pretty much everyone together, they'll have such a good chance and will be a force to be reckoned with. Just ahead of them, and quite a bit ahead of them, at 7-1, Burnley are second favourites to go up, and I guess in that automatic promotion bracket. And I get it with Burnley. You know, they ran the league completely 2 years ago. They absolutely brushed everyone aside and won it at a canter. So you can completely see why they are well fancied. But of course, Scott Parker has come in, and Scott Parker's an okay manager, but I feel like he is slightly overrated, and he's always had the best players in the league at his disposal, and he will here again. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did what he did at Fulham, if he did what he did at Bournemouth again. It wouldn't surprise me one bit, but I don't think they'll be as swashbuckling as they were under Vincent Kompany. So although I can completely see why Burnley would be up there, I don't think it'll be as straightforward as many think. And the bookies' favourites to get automatically promoted and I guess win the title based off these odds, at 7-2, it's Leeds United. Last season's playoff finalists, who of course lost out to Southampton, are favourites, and again, I can see why. But the problem with Leeds is I think there's going to be a little bit more of an overhaul than they'd have hoped. There's so many rumours going around that they need to raise X amount of money. They're going to lose Somerville. They're going to lose Rutter. They could lose a multitude of unbelievable talent that stood them clear in the Championship last season. So there will be a bit of a task for Leeds to replace them players, but I still think they've got a very, very good squad there. And I would not be surprised to see them at the top of the league next season. Very much like what they did under Bielsa after they lost out in the playoffs. They then went one better the season after. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them do it again. But they will have to deal with a little bit of an overturn of squad. But if they keep Daniel Farke, he knows how to get the job done. So although I think Luton, Boro, Coventry have, I think, the best foundations, I think Leeds and Burnley will still have more than enough quality to compete. So these are quite interesting odds. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I think mid-table towards the bottom, yeah, there's quite a few you could swap around, and I think that's the nature of the Championship. There's a massive degree of unpredictability about it, but I think towards the top end, they are the clubs I would expect to be up there, probably barring Sheffield United, who I wouldn't be so sure on, but the top 6-7 are definitely who I think will be the top 6 or 7. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I will be coming back in a few days, as I say, with my own early prediction with my first league table for the Championship, as well as lots more other cool content on the Championship, rounding up the Euros, and lots of stuff on my beloved Boro too. So if you're excited for the new season and you like this video, smash a like on this one, subscribe for much more Championship of football content to come. Let me know your predictions in the comment section below, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.